I think for now if conditions and nesting is enough. Let's try for the next one, which it is a loop. We're using for. Note that before I want to mention something very important. If I remove everything here, still we have the code here. If I go to the view code, as you see, it has remained here. And because I removed my command button, if I add another command button, and by default again it is command button 1, and if I double click on that, we have the same code. So if you removed any element, note that remove the codes too. Anyway, let's say I want to have a button. By clicking on that, generate some text. Of course, let's rename it as, say, generate. And I double click. How we could insert some text? Of course, selection dot type text and text equal, let's say, sample. Okay. If I go to the word here and go macro, we don't have any macros. But if I go to the Visual Basic, while my user form is selected, if I run, here inside of code, if I run, my form gonna run and of course it will work. So as you realized, we cannot first call the forms directly as a macro. Macros connected to the modules. So you have to call the form. I'm going to the macro and create a subroutine as a macro sub my macro, and my user form name is user form 1. How can I call it? It is very simple. Just write the name user form 1 dot, and we have a method name show. By this command, you could call it or show it. Let's go to the word. Allow me to remove these. Macro. Now we have my macro. If I run it, because I told show the form, it is actually connected to this form. Now I could generate it. Let's go Visual Basic, and inside of generate, I want to add some extra characters such as return key or tab key. If you want to add return key or paragraph mark, as you know, we could use ampersand and VBCR for carriage return. It's gonna work. Allow me to close it and remove the content. And for tab also, if I type VB, we have tab. It's gonna create a tab. Let's run the macro run. It's generating tab, and by default tab it is here very low value. Doesn't matter. But how about if I want to, by pressing one time the button, let's make a carriage. Okay. For example, 10 times or 5 times. Of course, we could copy. Let's say 2, 3, 4, 5. By repeating command, as you realize and know, by running and creating the generate text, we have 5. But this is not the correct solution. Why? First of all, as I mentioned before, we are avoiding to make multiple commands and repeating. Secondly, you might to ask from the user how many times you want to generate this text. Maybe he need or she need 5 or 500. How about 500? You want to copy 500 times? Of course, this is not the solution. In these conditions, we are using loops such as for loop, which I will mention on the next video.